And we're going to go out live now to Mark Davis, who's going to cover that for us. He's going to speak from the Emergency Operations Center in just about 30 seconds or so. Mark.
Hi, Ann and Keith. Good afternoon once again, everyone, from the Emergency Operations Center here at the State Armory in Hartford. The governor should be out here just momentarily. He has just finished up a conference call with the utilities and also with the municipalities around the state to see how they're holding up, especially on the shoreline from New Haven to New London that is now in a blizzard warning. We expect him to address us about how those communities are doing and also what the status is on the power companies. Earlier this morning, they said that things were pretty good. There was only a little over 100 power outages in the Eversource system and apparently none in the United Illuminating Company system. We'll see if that has changed as of yet with the wind and the blizzard warning in mostly the eastern shoreline from southern New Haven County, Middlesex County, and also New London County. Are we delayed, or is he coming? The governor is coming from the conference room. Here now is the governor.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us again today. I just finished a conference call with our cities and towns to get an update on the storm and to ensure that they have the resources that they need to respond to the storm. We had no specific request for service at this time, but we obviously continue to have an activated center and will handle requests as they may come in. Bus service around the state was previously suspended. Quite frankly, that takes a while because some of these bus routes are rather long, so they're not necessarily all in. And by the way, I came by a bus that was having some problems on Asylum Street. We will look to restore service, if possible, later today or in the evening, understanding that some people are at work. But that's a goal. That's not a guarantee at the moment. Service will be suspended on the Connecticut Fast Track as well. Buses will be off the road. We believe that will be able to restore travel on that line, or we're hopeful that we will at least. Commuters who took the bus to get somewhere today are urged to leave immediately if their bus is still available to them. Commuter rail service continues on the New Haven line on Shoreline East with delays. There is no service today on Amtrak line between New Haven and Springfield. Otherwise, that would have been by bus, but that was suspended early in the storm. As I noted earlier, we activated the state's cold weather protocol later today. We are very concerned about that issue, and that is that it's going to get very, very cold with relative high winds, and therefore the chilling effect of that cold weather will be compounded. But as soon as snow stops in portions of the state, we believe that we'll be out on the street looking for people who need to be urged to come in out of the cold. As of noon, Connecticut State Police had 601 calls for service, 68 accidents, 4 with injuries, no fatalities. We are still seeing heavy snow, including near blizzard conditions in part of the state, with snowfall rates as high as 3 inches an hour. Low visibility seems to be one of the biggest problems. Obviously, we've also had heavy snowfall rates. We've actually experienced some areas where the snow itself is quite heavy, and that compounds the problems as well. If you do not need to travel today, we ask you to stay off the streets until we can get everything cleaned up on a local and a state basis. For those who need to travel, remember your winter driving skills. Drive at a reasonable rate of speed, leaving as much room between you and the next car as possible. That's particularly true on hills where you know you're going down and could otherwise be apt to slip. The Department of Transportation has 633 state plow trucks out. That's a drop of 1. We had some mechanical problems with one of our trucks. 248 contractor plows. Trucks are also clearing road. That represents a decline of 2 trucks also experiencing some mechanical difficulties. Drivers are urged to stay clear of snow plows. We urge you to do that, and obviously stay away from anything that's stopped in the road as well. I want to thank our plow truck drivers who are out there. I doubt that they are going to hear me, but hopefully a friend or relative will tell them how grateful we are for the good work they're doing. Bradley Airport has seen a number of cancellations today. If you are flying, you should check Bradley Airport is temporarily closed in all regards for some cleanup in anticipation of restarting regular service, or at least being in a position to start service after the snow has moved through the area. I have asked DMV to extend a grace period for renewing certain credentials that would have otherwise expired today. We know that we're looking into a longer situation, but we are also looking at a holiday. So if you needed to get to the DMV, we anticipate DMV will be open tomorrow morning, and your re-registrations or your licenses could be pursued at that time. Those people have until the end of the business day, I should say. Now this just in, so it's changed. Actually, people will have through Wednesday to make up the deficiencies that they may have been caused today by their a failure to have taken care of that before the snowstorm. The state EOC continues to monitor conditions across the state, continues to be open. With that, I'll take some questions.
Did you hear anything from the power companies? How are they doing?
They're doing great. UI had, I think, under 100 outages, 40 of them in one condominium complex. Eversource had about 1,600, but 700 of those in one incident in Norwalk, which had just happened, and they're getting on top of it. They have even more crews. Eversource now has 200 crews available and 66 tree crews available. So they're well prepared to deal with this as the storm progresses. We should also note that the storm will be leaving the state, beginning out in Litchfield in the next hour or so, and then slowly across the state, moving west to east.
Now, have the new super plows been deployed on the Q Bridge and the Gold Star?
I don't know exactly where they've been deployed. If you're talking about the snow eaters, they're deployed. Our new plows, which are 3-lane plows, have previously. I actually don't know whether they've been used today, but they have previously been used on the bridges that you just mentioned. I'll try to find out if it's of interest.
Such a low number of accidents so far, relatively speaking. Are you happy about that?
Yeah, I think it's we're happy that people, for the most part, are staying in. I have access to cameras watching what's going on. In our urban areas, we see some more traffic. Some of that probably is people getting on the highway for local travel to get off at the next exit and the like. By and large, people are staying off the highway system. That's allowing us to stay on top, and hopefully will allow us to fully recover more quickly.
Is it too early to tell whether state offices will be open tomorrow? Do you anticipate?
I anticipate state offices will be open tomorrow. That's certainly our expectation. If snow ends at 5 o'clock, it's possible, and we'll make calls about delays. A lot of this depends on our ability to clear parking, open-air parking lots where they exist. The college systems, both private and public, will make their own separate calls. I think the judicial system will have to make calls as well, and we'll try to share that information with you.
Just to clarify on the DMV.
I will clarify because something had changed between the conference. Originally, it was stated that people would have to act by 12 o'clock tomorrow. We've been able to arrange until Wednesday, and I'll just go. Those people have until the end of business on Wednesday to go to DMV to get their renewals done.
If your license or registration is expiring today or even tomorrow, you have until Wednesday close of business.
Right. Understand that Monday is a holiday as well. So you have tomorrow, assuming that we're open, and you would have Tuesday and Wednesday, assuming we're open.
DMV's not open Saturday because of the holiday.
Correct.
That doesn't include emissions licenses, but emissions are open over the weekend.
Oh, emissions are open. I'm sorry. So did you say emissions? I was talking about registrations and licenses. Right. Okay.
Do you think you'll issue a travel ban?
No, I don't. Again, given the number of the relatively low number of accidents for the storm, I think what we decided to do early on was the right thing, and that is to stay on top of the storm to the greatest extent possible. Urge people to drive slowly. By and large, that's worked. We did have an earlier jackknife truck, but that happens in rain, and we do have a right not too far from here, have a tanker truck that's having some trouble on the road, but traffic seems to be getting around it, and we'll get somebody out there to help them shortly.
Have you had any reports of any particular parts of the state, especially Hartford?
You know, this has been an interesting storm because, and if you've watched the bands of snow, they have moved. The eastern portion of the state seems to have gotten the heaviest amount of snow and the heaviest snow. So a lot of inches of snow, but particularly wet snow in that portion of the state. And as you watch these bands, they come and go. And so we've seen in those bands very heavy snowfalls in very short periods of time. That seems to be the biggest differential that we're seeing.
Would you anticipate updating us late this afternoon?
I'll have our folks talk to you, and if you guys are interested in doing that, if there's an interest, then we'll arrange to do something.
Well, with blizzard conditions, New Haven and
Yep.
Middlesex and New London County.
Yeah, no, if you give me an audience, I'll probably be here.
Starting to sound like Dick Bloom.
Yeah. But I'm bum. All right. Any other questions?
I see there's somebody from the state police over there. Could you describe sort of some of the issues that troopers are seeing on the highway? Typical kind of call for help, problems that are cropping up a lot.
Can you identify yourself for television and radio?
Colonel Alaric Fox, Commanding Officer, Connecticut State Police. As might be expected, it's an issue of vehicles that become stuck in the snow, vehicles that have difficulty getting up hills, and we provide law enforcement services to try to get them moving. Sometimes that's getting DOT out there to assist us, getting sand, salt down in order to get the appropriate traction. Sometimes the vehicle just needs to get a running start, if you will, in order to get moving again. In the interim, we make that scene safe to make sure that everyone's in a good place.
How are the police getting around?
Very carefully, and making sure that we don't become a casualty on the way to one of these incident scenes.
Have there been any particular areas that have been hard hit, or accidents that have been larger than most of what you're seeing?
No, I think it's been a pretty fair distribution. As always, it's the hills that are the primary source of concern, especially for the larger vehicles.
And any problems that you've heard about aside from roads?
No, sir.
Now, you have a number of places where there's only a state trooper in these small towns, especially in eastern Connecticut. Are they able to access any help if they need it?
Oh, absolutely. We've supplemented our ordinary patrols with administrative personnel that suit up. That's par for the course, and that's normal business. We're comfortable with the number of personnel that are available, and we get to the emergencies and handle them. Thank you.
I just want to note that in our municipal call, we had over 180 participants and no specific request for assistance. But obviously, if there was specific request or if they come in, we'll address those as they come in.
Towns said to you that they've been able to stay on top of
Everyone was invited. Yeah, I think that's the undelivered message. The lack of requests for assistance would lead us to believe that. We gave everyone an update with respect to the utilities, with respect to our own preparations and what we're experiencing. Open the lines for discussion or request. Had one request, not actual request, but just wanted to understand how they might, when we're not on the phone call, if they had a request, deliver that, and that's through their regional operation.
6 years of snowstorms. Think people understand it differently now?
You know, I'm always amazed how quickly people forget how to drive in snow. It gives you an understanding of what happens in Georgia when they have an inch of snow. Leave a lot of space. Drive slowly. Don't be on the road if you don't need to be. And if you haven't changed your tires in a couple of years, they're probably bald. You know, there's a lot of common sense to this stuff. Most people know all of those things and follow it, and then yet every once in a while you'll get somebody who has forgotten it or didn't know it, and that's what causes problems. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
So, for what we've been going through, things don't appear to be that bad. But with regard to the buses, again, they said that they are hoping to restore service tonight. So if you took the bus to work and you can't get one home, there's the possibility that they will have service this evening, but it's not guaranteed. So you might want to make alternative plans for that. And we will have the very latest from here as the day progresses, live from the Emergency Operations Center at the State Armory in Hartford. Mark Davis, News 8.